Also tonight, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs accused of sex trafficking and sexual assault in a lawsuit filed in federal court here in New York.
New lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs, bringing some serious claims against the music mogul, brought by his former longtime girlfriend.
Puffy might be the destination for anybody going nowhere. Nobody survives.
Diddy's problems are not going away anytime soon, and even if there was ever a chance of a quiet resolution, 50 Cent has made sure that won't happen. 50 is going after him hard, and he recently brought back a video involving Diddy and Cassie that most people had completely forgotten about. But honestly, you can't be too surprised. Diddy has been building toward this moment for years. His history of abuse is so long and so detailed it could fill an entire filing cabinet, from the White House all the way down to Connecticut. In this video, we're going to walk through all of it. What exactly does 50 Cent have? Why does everything seem to be working against Diddy right now? And is there any realistic chance he walks away a free man? Let's get into it. Starting with Cassie.
It's a beautiful dress.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to ask you, can't wait to see 3 a.m.
Yes.
The controversy.
Yeah.
How can we get a tape of this?
Oh, I'm going to send it to you. I will email it to you.
Email me the
Yes.
whole thing.
Yes,
I love
yes,
it. I love that you're constantly crushing the glass ceiling or crushing the block.
If you understand the full story behind this footage, if you know what the 3 a.m. video actually is and what Diddy was threatening to send to Andre, then you already know that Cassie got out of something truly horrifying when she finally left him. And what's interesting is that this whole part of the story circles back to videos and sex tapes that Diddy used as weapons. The 3 a.m. video was just one piece of a much larger, darker pattern, but that's a serious claim, so what's the actual evidence? More specifically, what would someone like 50 Cent have that likely would have finished Diddy in court? Had Cassie chosen to take things that far? To answer that, we have to go back in time. If you were paying attention in the early 1990s, 1991 specifically, and this part isn't even about Cassie, you need to understand one of the most toxic sides of who Diddy really was. The woman in this case was a lady named Joy Dickerson Neal. Her accusation against Diddy goes back to when she was still in college and he was working as a talent agent, long before Bad Boy Records existed, before he had any real power of his own. She says she went on a date with him, and during that date, Diddy spiked her drink. She knows this because by the time he drove her to his music studio, she could barely stand on her own. And it was in that moment that he made his move and assaulted her. But here's where this connects to the video angle, because Diddy didn't just assault her, he filmed it. And then he sent that footage to 2 of his friends. How does she know this? 'Cause Devante Swing, a member of the R&B group Jodeci, told her directly. This isn't secondhand rumor. It's documented, and the people who said it are still alive and have never walked back their statements. And if you're wondering why she didn't go to the police at the time, her reason was straightforward: shame and the fear that she would lose the record deal Diddy had dangled in front of her. Now draw that same thread forward through the 90s, through the rise and dominance of Bad Boy Records all the way to Cassie, and the same pattern shows up every time. Diddy used the promise of a record deal to control the women he wanted to exploit. That's exactly why he handed Cassie a 10-year album deal right from the start. It was unheard of back then. And look, I'm not here to tear down the woman, but she wasn't exactly a standout vocalist, and that's putting it kindly. She couldn't write songs. Her dancing was fine, but nothing remarkable. What she had was her looks, and that was all Diddy cared about. He wanted her, so he did the most calculated thing he could to secure her. And once he had her, he used blackmail to keep her there.
That girl went through some tumultuous shit that she never thought that she would ever have to go through being in the music business. Do you understand that?
But it gets even darker from there. According to Cassie's lawsuit, Diddy forced her to have sex with male escorts while he watched. And as if that wasn't disturbing enough, he made Cassie find those men herself. Before she would sleep with them, he drugged her. And then, just like he had done to that young woman back in college, he filmed everything. My mother always said that people don't all tell the same lie over and over again. And for anyone still making excuses for Diddy, I'd love to hear how you explain this. And before you try, know that there's more. 'Cause those recordings Diddy made were not just kept for personal use. They were leverage, blackmail, plain and simple. Whenever Cassie talked about leaving, he threatened to release the footage. And eventually it got out because in 2010, during a radio interview with DJ Who Kid on Shade 45, 50 Cent talked openly about a similar tape he had received that made him seriously question what was really going on between Diddy and Cassie. First, 50 didn't even realize Diddy was connected to it. The material had been sent to his personal phone from an unknown number. And he described what he saw as far worse than anything the public had seen: graphic, explicit content. Now, when you consider who 50 Cent is and how short the list of people with direct access to his private number actually is, it's clear this came from either Diddy or someone in his immediate circle. But 50 didn't know that right away, so he called Diddy to let him know what had been sent to him.
With this girl, like, you really, like, you like her like that? And he was like, yeah, that's my girl. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna send you something. You look at it, you call me.
So 50 Cent reached out to Diddy, and Diddy called back claiming that the images had been sent out by his people by mistake or something along those lines. But 50, who already had a clear picture of who Diddy was, didn't buy that for a second. He understood exactly what those images were. They were Diddy's insurance policy on Cassie, his way of making sure she wouldn't go anywhere. And that was probably the turning point where 50's contempt for Diddy became permanent. It all traces back to the shopping mall incident.
Then he was like, he's like, so when we gonna get the chance to, to kick it, like we could just hang out. And he was like, why don't we like go shopping? I mean, like, I pay for it. And I was like, what the f this just say?
Because you can be sure that if it had been Rick Ross in that same situation, 50 wouldn't have given it a second thought. And yes, 50 Cent himself has used compromising material against Rick Ross in the past, so the fact that he reacted differently here says a lot. He could see that Cassie was in real danger. He could see that her relationship with Diddy wasn't just unhealthy, it was destructive in a way that was actively trapping her. And the material he forwarded to Diddy as a kind of test was all the confirmation he needed. But beyond the private evidence, there were also signs Diddy himself put on display for the world to see. Like that moment on Instagram where Cassie was hiding under a pile of sheets, clearly trying to disappear from him.
What you gotta say now? What you gotta say now? You ain't got shit to say.
Now, on its own, you could say that video doesn't prove abuse. But if you knew what Diddy had done to the woman he was with before Cassie, if you knew how he treated the mother of his children, if you had any idea what Kim Porter went through, you wouldn't be asking questions about context. You would already know that Diddy was one of the most manipulative and calculated serial abusers in that entire industry. Kim Porter.
Hey, what's up, y'all? We interrupt your browsing for this emergency announcement. This is my girl, Kim, my lovely girlfriend, KP, Kim Porter.
Let me walk you through it. The year is 2005. By this point, Diddy and Kim Porter had been in each other's lives for over 10 years, on and off, as she herself described it. During one of the periods when they were together, Diddy heard a rumor. The rumor was that Kim had started seeing someone else in the industry. So Diddy arranged a trip to St. Tropez, rented a yacht, and let Kim believe they were going there to have a good time together. That was not what happened. Bodyguards later reported hearing intense arguments starting at around 2 a.m. By 7 a.m., it had turned into a violent assault. Diddy beat Kim so badly that he broke her nose. He then flew in a specialist surgeon from Geneva to repair the damage and keep Kim away from the public eye until she healed. But here's what makes this even more chilling. If you try to find this story online today, it's almost completely gone. Outlets like The Sun, which originally ran the story, no longer have it up. Photos of Kim from that period, where she could be seen with a bandage on her nose, have almost entirely been scrubbed from the internet. What you see here is one of the very few surviving images. My belief is that Diddy went to serious lengths to erase his digital trail because when this happened in 2005, it was a major story and he knew he had gone too far. But you don't have to take my word for it, or the word of a newspaper, because Gene Deal also spoke about it.
You heard about the fact that he broke Kim's nose on a yacht?
Wow, I didn't hear about that.
He broke Kim, let's say allegedly, but it was told by people in her camp that he broke Kim's nose on a yacht.
Former Bad Boy artist Mark Curry said the exact same thing. He said he personally witnessed the toxic dynamic between Kim and Diddy, how Diddy beat her repeatedly and how much she endured at his hands. When The Art of Dialogue asked him directly whether Diddy had broken Kim's nose, this was his response.
Speaking of Kim Porter, because you knew Kim Porter, is it true that Diddy broke her nose?
Bust a nose, man.
A lot of Diddy's defenders have claimed that Mark is only speaking out because of their falling out over publishing rights. But my response to that is simple. There isn't a single person who worked with Diddy who didn't eventually have a dispute over publishing. And if you've been following this story closely, you've already started to see the pattern clearly. Just like he did with Cassie, Diddy also had Kim Porter's phone wiretapped. Mark Curry went on record saying that any man who goes out of his way to wiretap someone's phone or bug their home just to track their conversations is showing signs of deeply disturbed behavior. And it wasn't just Kim and Cassie. Misa Hilton has also spoken about experiencing violence at Diddy's hands. Misa is the mother of Diddy's oldest son, Justin. And Mark went even further, claiming that at Diddy's parties there were separate drinks set aside for female guests. Those drinks were laced with substances designed to lower inhibitions. If the music industry were a person, it would be Diddy, because just when you think the damage can't go any deeper, another layer gets exposed. That's why Gene insists that Kim's story and Cassie's story are really the same story. The difference is that Cassie got out, Kim didn't. And what I'm about to say is sensitive, but it has to be said. Sometimes people can't escape abuse because they've been pulled in so far that they start defending the person hurting them. After the nose incident, when Kim was asked what happened, she said she had accidentally walked into a table. Maybe she believed that herself. But then, 2 years later in 2007, when Kim was pregnant with their twin girls, she found out Diddy had been cheating on her. She ended things, but even in the interview she gave afterward, she sounded less like someone leaving an abuser and more like someone hoping the abuser would feel guilty enough to come back. She told Essence magazine, "I wanted to be dramatic. I wanted him to know I wasn't just breaking up with him for 2 weeks or leaving for 2 days. And what made it worse was that Diddy had fathered a child with this other woman just 5 months before Kim gave birth to their twins. The history between them went all the way back to Tupac. It was deeply tangled. Eventually Diddy came clean, and after that they separated for good. If you were in Kim's position, what would you have done? If your answer is to protect yourself emotionally while being present for children who are stuck sharing a father like that, we're in agreement. But Kim did the opposite. She told Essence that she and Diddy stayed close friends. Her exact words, "Sean and I have this bond, this friendship." We all know how Kim Porter's story ended. I mentioned it briefly earlier. And if you're new to this, the short version is that Cassie recognized what was happening to her and found a way out. Kim never got that chance.
Model and longtime girlfriend of entertainer Sean Diddy Combs, Kim Porter, was laid to rest yesterday in her hometown of Columbus, Georgia. Funeral taking place at Cascade Hills Church. Porter leaves behind 3 children with Combs and an older son by singer Al B. Shore.
Kim Porter passed away, and as you might expect, a lot of people who had been watching her story for years immediately suspected Diddy had something to do with it. But the autopsy results came back, and the official cause of death was pneumonia. Diddy wasn't with her when she was found. So why did so many people point the finger at him? Well, it might have a lot to do with the book Kim Porter was reportedly working on at the time of her death.
It was alleged that she did have a book and that her book was about to come out. And she was talking about all the perils, everything that she went through in the music business and with Diddy.
This book was said to be a detailed account of her entire relationship with Diddy, a full tell-all that would have shaken everything. Kind of story that, coming from a source as credible as Kim Porter, would have been nearly impossible to dismiss. If she had been the one talking about Diddy's same-sex relationships, about him allegedly giving Usher an STD, about Mary J. Blige's reported pregnancy and abortion involving Diddy, about the sexual activities and the disturbing things he was into, nobody would have questioned it the way some people have questioned Cassie. And I don't mean to suggest that people aren't taking Cassie seriously. I just think some of them pulled back after she accepted that $30 million settlement. But maybe if you heard what some of the men had to say, it would land differently. The men.
He tried it on me. So I know it's true. I got a phone call in the middle of the night, about 2:30 in the morning. It was, my wife says, pick up the phone. It was an unknown number.
Columbus Short's account is one of them, and the story he tells sounds eerily similar to what other men in the industry who crossed paths with Diddy have described. The man moved through 2 very different worlds, one that was out in the open and one he kept firmly locked away.
Hey man, we didn't see what BET Awards, you know, what you doing? I'm like, I'm in bed with my wife. He said, I'm at the Beverly Hills Hilton, the Beverly Hills Hotel. I said, what's up? I said, who over there? He said, just me.
Diddy was clearly trying to bring people into his world, and while Short was smart enough to step back, not everyone was as fortunate. I've already mentioned a few alleged names, but there's more. There's enough out there to suggest something similar was happening with Ja Rule, which might explain a lot about why 50 Cent has gone after him so relentlessly for so long. The specific incident involved a hotel presidential suite in Atlanta. Some but plugs, Ja Rule and Diddy. Gene Deal was standing guard outside the door at the time, completely unaware of what was going on inside. He only found out later that something of a sexual nature had been taking place behind those closed doors. The situation came to a head when someone knocked at the front door.
Next thing you know, somebody rang the doorbell. We had the presidential suite where we was at. So I opened the door and the dude said, yo, I'm here for my cousin. I said, who your cousin? And he said, Ja Rule.
Gene Deal went into protective mode almost instantly and stopped the person at the door, who turned out to be someone's cousin. Cousin wasn't backing down, and after a brief struggle, Gene was forced to shove him onto a piano. That noise was loud enough to get the attention of both Diddy and Ja Rule inside the room.
When I threw him into the piano, Puff and Ja Rule runs out the room. Puff got his towel, Ja grabbing his towel, but they butt the naked.
Both men came rushing out, and both of them were clearly undressed. Whether this was some kind of arranged encounter or something more coerced, there's no way to say for certain. But Ja Rule gave Gene a telling reaction once he realized why his cousin had been pinned against that piano by Diddy's bodyguard.
Yo, Ja said, you ain't want to go in that room, because there's a lot of freaking going on.
And keep in mind, we haven't even really gotten into 50 Cent's involvement yet, and there's already this much to work through. The number of men who have pointed to Diddy's behavior across more than 3 decades is not small. And the real issue here isn't about his sexuality. Problem is that he most likely pressured men who weren't interested into situations they didn't agree to. It's easier for him to abuse women, but that doesn't mean men were off limits, especially when he had something they needed. If you find that hard to believe, then you probably haven't been paying close enough attention to how power works in that industry, because people have been talking about it for a long time. People like Wendy Williams, who back in the 1990s was one of the most outspoken radio personalities in New York City. During her years running Urban Gossip, she regularly implied that Diddy was gay. But things came to a real head in the mid-1990s when Wendy got her hands on a photograph that appeared to show Diddy in a sexual situation with another man. The photo showed a man pulling down Diddy's shorts while he was vacationing on a yacht in Cancun. It wasn't definitive proof, but it was enough to fan the flames, enough to threaten his reputation, destroy his street credibility, and make him an easy target during his rivalry with Suge Knight.
And we were on our way to the Island of Women. You understand? And this is all it was, bruh. For whatever reason, dude was playing with Puff. He went behind him and grabbed his trunks and pulled them down.
And remember, this was right in the middle of the East Coast-West Coast tension when image and toughness meant everything. Even today, homophobia is still deeply embedded in hip-hop culture. Even supposedly progressive artists like J. Cole have used homophobic language in their music. So even if Diddy had wanted to be open about who he was, and even if his powerful connections on Wall Street had his back, his career in the streets would have been finished. Nobody would have taken him seriously, and his businesses would have eventually crumbled. That's also probably the reason Tyler Perry keeps denying similar rumors about himself. But back to Wendy, because when Diddy found out what she was planning to do with that photo, he had her fired.
Puff got one of the hottest DJs off of Hot 97 because she wanted to put up a picture of him getting his pants pulled down.
Now, Diddy and Wendy may have reached some kind of peace since then, but that changes nothing because she has never denied what she saw or said. Meanwhile, 50 Cent still calls him out on a regular basis. And perhaps the most striking evidence of all comes from Diddy himself, because there are those who believe he has been quietly hinting at his own truth through his music. His verse on the song Hope by Blood Orange is unusual on its own, but the video that goes along with it is even more telling. It features 2 men holding each other while Diddy raps the following. Sometimes I ask myself, what is it going to take for me not to be afraid to be loved the way I really want to be loved? I know how I really want to be loved, but I'm scared to really, really feel that. It's like you want something, but you don't know if you can handle it. Maybe one day I'll get over my fears and I'll receive it. Doesn't get much more direct than that. But maybe the most striking thing of all, despite everything that has come out, every accusation, every story, every claim, there isn't a single video anywhere of Diddy directly denying that he is gay.